Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome if this is your first time here. So I'm doing another voiceover video, and again, this is off the top of my head. I did not take notes for this, so it might be a little bit rambly, and I hope you don't mind. But this is going to be a video about parasitic relationships, how to know that you're in one, what they are, and how to swiftly exit one and recover from one. So I have a video about parasitic relationships. That's on my channel already, where I go into detail about it. Basically, a parasitic relationship is one where one person is basically feeding off of the other person's energy, and the energy can switch back and forth, meaning that at one point in time in a relationship, you could be the parasite, and then as the relationship evolves, maybe the other person is the parasite. Usually it just switches back and forth. So basically, it's two individuals who are not able to create a high vibrational energy on their own, so they are getting that energy from another person. So I like to use the classic example of narcissist and codependent, right? So a narcissist is not able to create a high vibrational energy on their own because a narcissist is living with core shame. And if you know about vibrational frequency, shame is actually the lowest frequency that you can be on. The highest frequency is love and enlightenment, which is usually the frequency of a higher power, like God, the universe, whatever you believe in. The higher power of love. And if you don't believe in God, then think about like the higher power of a good parent, like a good mother, like the love that they have for their children. That's like the highest vibration you can be on. And then the lowest, like I said, would be shame. So narcissists and codependents are both on the frequency of shame because at a young age, they have been taught that they are a shameful individual. They've been abused. They've been mistreated. So they are both on the frequency of shame. So they have a very hard time creating the feeling of genuine, unconditional love within themselves, you see? So what they will do is get into a parasitic relationship. So they're trying to create that feeling of unconditional love through each other. Okay. So the narcissist will mistreat the codependent, cause the codependent to go crazy and text them 1,000,000 times and email them and stalk them. And the narcissist is actually seeing that as unconditional love because the codependent has now seen that the narcissist is not necessarily a good person, but there is a trauma bond there. So the codependent is going to attach and try to be back with the narcissist anyway. And in a warped way, the narcissist is feeding off of that as love. It's like a false sense of love that they're feeding off of. And remember, they can't create the unconditional real love. So the false love that they're getting from driving someone insane is close enough for them. It makes them feel good. That's why you see when a narcissist is getting this quote unquote love, they usually flourish. Like you'll see them walking around, they feel good, they look confident and things of that sort. But when, the codependent breaks up with the narcissist first, or the narcissist loses their job or something like that, you'll see the narcissist hits rock bottom much harder than the average person. And let me just touch base on the jobs too, because that's another way that a narcissist gets their love, quote unquote, energy. It's basically any attention that they're getting to their ego to mask that core shame. They perceive that as that unconditional love that they can't create on their own. So that's why I said when the codependent goes to them first or breaks up with them or they lose their job, they'll hit rock bottom and be on that very low frequency of shame. And then they have to go and find someone else to become a parasite to and get that love. So that's why they're never alone. That's why they jump from relationship to relationship. Now, codependence, same thing. A codependent can also be a parasite because the codependent is feeding off of the narcissist as well. In the beginning, when the narcissist is love bombing the codependent is getting a false sense of love. That's that false unconditional love from the narcissist, because the narcissist is just bombarding the codependent with texts and I'm going to call you and you're on the phone for 12 hours and they're showing you off to all their friends and they're posting you on social media. It's like that love bombing stage. The codependent is actually feeding off of the narcissist and they're not doing it. It's not anything that's done intentionally or maliciously, but they're feeding off of that love energy and they're confusing it with unconditional love when really it's a false love, but it feels good at the time because, like I said, codependents also have that core wound of shame. So any type of love, quote unquote, false love is going to feel like that unconditional love and it becomes very parasitic. Okay, sorry, I had to pause the audio for a second to take a water break. So if the sound sounds a little bit different, yeah, I had to get up and move my phone, so it might be a little off. But like I was saying, codependents are living with that core shame. So any type of false love that they're getting from this narcissist, it's going to feel like unconditional love that we would get usually from our mothers or God, a higher power, and things of that sort. It feels like that. And that's why then codependents will have a tendency to almost worship the narcissist, and it becomes very parasitic back and forth. See what I'm saying? It's like both people feeding off each other at different times and just draining the life out of each other. But mostly in those cases, the codependent will be the one that ends up drained, because the narcissist gets their fuel at the end of the relationship. See what I'm saying? The codependent gets the fuel or the love, quote unquote, at the beginning during the love bombing phase. But then the narcissist will get that fuel from them at the end during the devaluation and discard phase. And that's why the codependent is usually left broken and the narcissist kind of goes off feeling good about themselves because they're getting their fuel at the end of the relationship, while the codependent got all of their fuel at the beginning. Okay. And actually, it's really interesting. I just now realized this. It seems as though, it's almost like the narcissist builds up the codependent in the beginning stages just so that they can feed off of them. It's like raising like a cow for slaughter, right? If you think about it, it's like if a codependent is living with core shame, right? And a narcissist meets a codependent when they're in that energy of core shame, it would make sense for the narcissist to love bomb them with love, raise that person's frequency to the frequency of love, because now the codependent feels loved and we feel like we're at our best, and then feed off of them after that. Makes a lot of sense. That just clicked in my mind for some reason. Okay, moving on. Now, that's what parasitic relationships are. And it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be romantic. It can be friends. I'm sure you've maybe had friendships in the past that's parasitic. One person is feeding, the other person is giving. One or the other ends up drained, parasitic. Parasitic relationships can exist with religion, like preachers and their what are they called? The congregation, the church, you know what I'm saying? In different religions, spirituality. If you follow spiritual channels on here, parasitic relationships can be created with spiritual gurus, quote unquote, tarot readers and things like that, where the reader is like the viewer is holding on to the spiritual guru's every word and almost like trying to get that energy from them because they see the spiritual leader as some sort of godlike figure. And remember, the reason that we can become parasites is if we are living with core shame and we're disconnected from that feeling of God or the feeling of a mother, if you don't believe in God. And a spiritual guru kind of embodies that energy. So that's why you'll see some people who are, kind of ashamed, or they live with core shame. You'll see them like latch on to a spiritual guru and follow their every word. And that's also how a lot of cults are formed too. Parasitic relationships, you see? So, trying to figure out what next. Like I said, this isn't planned, so this is all off the top of my head. So sorry if it is rambly. How to exit a parasitic relationship and like how to heal from one. Okay. So when you are, I guess I'll take this from two angles. When you are the one who is the parasite and when the other person is a parasite. Okay. So let's say that you are in a relationship and you are the parasite, right? Meaning that maybe this person was narcissistic and they love bombed you, and then suddenly they switched off that love and now you're like hungry and desperate for it and you're trying to contact them and you're trying to be with them. It doesn't have to be that this person was a narcissist. Maybe just the dynamic of your relationship was, imbalanced, and maybe they decided, okay, no, I'm going to close the door on this, and you feel like you just need that energy from them. And so you're like just trying to be back with them. No shame in that, because like I said, when you take part in these things, it's usually because you have a core wound of shame. So shaming yourself for having a core wound of shame is just kind of, counterproductive. It's kind of hard to heal from that space. So when you hear this and you think, oh, wow, I've been a parasite, don't shame yourself, because that is just actually backwards. It's going to make it harder for you to recover and heal. Don't shame yourself for being shameful, or don't shame yourself for having a core wound of shame. Okay. So like I was saying, let's say that you, there's this person who you were very much attached to, and they decide that it's time to go, whether they be a narcissist or just someone who you've had an imbalanced relationship with. Either way, you feel that desperation for them because you have confused them with unconditional love. You confuse them with the love of God or the love of a mother or a parent, right? So you can try to reach out to them. You can send them a billion emails, hoping and praying that they respond back to you. You can send them a million gifts in the mail, hoping that they'll be thankful and start, loving you again. It's like you can do whatever you can in your power, try to get them to come back, but sometimes they just won't, right? And in this case, this is when you start to kind of have like a breakdown and you start to spiral. And usually this is when you may try to go find that love elsewhere, that feeling of love elsewhere. So you'll go probably try to find another relationship, or you'll go and maybe you'll start doing drugs to hide that emotional pain. That's something else that a lot of people don't realize. Sometimes when you have core shame and you can't create the feeling of love within yourself because you're disconnected from God or from a mother figure, sometimes people actually will get high and use drugs because that high feeling is putting them on a higher frequency and they feel closer to that unconditional love. I would have to go into that in another video because that's like the spiritual aspect of drug abuse. But anyway, that's when you'll try to go and get that unconditional love, or you'll try to create that feeling of love by any means necessary. So you might start abusing substances. You might go and try to get into a new relationship, or you might post provocative pictures on Instagram to get likes and comments. Like it's a lot of things you can do to try to create that feeling of love. But it's all false. You see, so eventually you still come crashing down, and it's like you're always needing something to hook on to give you that feeling of love. So the way that you would handle this, or the way that you could resolve this in a healthy way, would be to heal that core shame, which takes a while because, like I said in my last video about core wounds, it takes a while because you have to reparent yourself. You have to dig down to the root of it. You have to basically re-traumatize yourself, because you have to go down into that core deep wound of shame, and that's not a fun place to dive into. There's a reason why our brain has buried it. So reparenting yourself, or inner child work and healing that core wound, would make it so that you don't need to hook on to anyone in order to get that love, or that false unconditional love. You would be able to create it within yourself because you no longer live from a place of core shame, you see. So like I said, that is a way to kind of help that situation long term. But in the short term, you're suffering because you want that unconditional love so badly. So long term solution would be healing the core wound, but a short term solution would be finding love in a healthy manner. So for example, hanging out with friends who fully accept you, or if you don't have friends like that, going online, maybe making friends, or making friends out at a class that you sign up for. Like if you are into painting, maybe signing up for an art class and meeting friends at your art class who have similar, oh my God, these vehicles outside are going to drive me nuts. Like I said, signing up for like an art class, and then you meet friends in an art class. You see what I'm saying? It's like you can then start to build healthy bonds, or feed healthy bonds that you already have with certain friends. And that in itself is going to feel like love to you. And it's going to help you kind of detach from that parasitic relationship. Now, the parasitic relationship that you were in is going to be more intense. So when you start to lean on your friends or whatever your support system is, you're still going to feel that pull towards the parasitic relationship, but it's not going to be as intense. Like, it's not going to feel as addictive because you're slowly but surely getting filled up with that love energy. It's different than the love bombing where the narcissist is throwing like just love just at you 24/7. Your friends, your support system, not necessarily going to do that. Like, we're all human beings. We all have lives. So they're not necessarily going to do that. So it's not going to be as intense, and it's not going to be an end-all cure for feeling pulled towards that parasitic relationship, but it's going to help you kind of detach. It's like going through withdrawal, but slowly but surely, versus completely disconnecting from that parasitic relationship. And now you feel like you're dying inside. When you have those friends or support system, or, family members who are supporting you, it's like you're weaning yourself off of that parasitic relationship. See what I'm saying? So basically, if you have been the parasite, meaning that this person, a narcissist or another, person who just didn't work out with, has disconnected from you, and you want so badly to cling to them, and you chase them, try not to shame yourself, because like I said, you're already coming from a place of core shame. Try not to shame yourself. Try to understand and accept yourself, because that in itself is also going to help you to feel that love, so try to accept yourself as you are and be compassionate with yourself, because you clearly have gone through some things in life as a child that has caused this thing in you that you need to heal, this core shame. So there's no need to shame yourself. So being compassionate towards yourself is also going to help you to kind of wean off of that parasitic relationship, because you're creating love within yourself. So like I said, being compassionate with yourself, having a support system of friends and family, is two things that you can do to help kind of cut down on those that pull towards that parasitic relationship. And then another thing you can do is to help people, like volunteer work. Like when you're volunteering and you're helping people, that also raises your frequency to the frequency of love, because now you're giving out love to people who need it. And now they're also sending love back your way because they are grateful. And that's, gratitude is also a form of love. And giving to those in need selflessly is a form of love. So you can see you're creating these love feelings without ever having to go back to the narcissist, or without ever having to go back to that one dysfunctional parasitic relationship. You see? Let me see what else. Oh, art. Creativity and art is another way that you can create love. Usually when you create something, or like when you're being creative in some way, even if you're not like a skilled artist, just creating something in itself actually helps you to create the feeling of love, because creativity comes directly from a higher power. Children are obviously the most creative, because children are closer to God. And if you don't believe in God, children are closer to mothers, I guess, or closer to unconditional love. I'm trying to see like how to incorporate everyone's beliefs in this video. But children, put it this way, children are on a higher frequency. Children are not as corrupted as adults are. So they tend to be more in touch with the energy of love. The younger they are, the more in touch they usually are with the feeling of love. And that's why children are so creative. So when you are creating something, you're getting this creative energy directly from a higher power. And that's why it helps you to soothe your pain. When you create artwork, you're creating the feeling of love. See what I'm saying? Or you're activating the feeling of love. So doing something creative can actually be very, very beneficial for you. And you can combine all of these methods if you think about it. If you're doing something creative and you're using that as like a career, like if you are an artist and it's your career, then that embodies a lot of these methods, because, okay, one, you're creating art, which is creating the feeling of love. And then you're selling the art, which is actually doing a service to people, because art raises people's vibrational frequency. Art makes people feel good. So you're doing a service to someone, and they are grateful, which also creates love. And then you have that family and friend support, and they're supporting your business. And then you can also support them financially, buying your friends gifts and stuff like that after you sell your artwork. So you see how if you find like your passion or your purpose, or like your career field, and it's mixed in with like what you are passionate or creative with, that can really, really, really raise your frequency very high. And you won't feel the need for a parasitic relationship at all if you're in that scenario. Now, let's talk about if someone has a parasitic tie to you. Let's say that you are just someone who no longer wants to deal with a certain person, right? And it could be that maybe that person is a narcissist and you are like, nope, I'm done. You realize that they're abusive and you cut them off, right? And if you've dated a narcissist, they don't take too kindly to that. They're going to try to come back. They're going to try to get your energy one way or another. I've definitely been in this situation, even with people who aren't narcissists. I had an ex who, we weren't compatible at all. At all. When we split up in a very mutual way. Neither of us were hurt at all. So we split up in a mutual way, but then he got involved with a woman who he entered a parasitic relationship with. Okay. So when the woman cut ties with him in a very cruel way, he was left very drained. So then when he came to me, he wanted to be back in a relationship with me, and I could like feel the desperation coming off of him. And I knew that he didn't really want me or really love me, because we had split up in a way that was very like friendly, like, okay, yeah, we're not going to be together. It's not compatible. So when he came back to me with this energy, it's like I could immediately feel that he had turned into a parasite. And that's not shade, or I'm not shaming him. It was because the person that he was with treated him quite cruelly, like in a very cruel way, and then cut him off in a very cruel way. So he was just looking for that love energy, and he was coming my way trying to get it, especially because at this point I was in a very good headspace. I was very well balanced, and I was really, really focused on YouTube, and my channel was growing. So I had a lot of love energy radiating off of me, and it's almost like he was drawn to it. And that's why empaths too will attract a lot of can attract a lot of parasitic relationships, because of the frequency that they let off. It's like people just want to latch on to it. They want that love. But yeah, so like I was saying, he came to me wanting to be in a relationship with me, and I could tell it was just one of those things where he just wanted my energy. Okay. And then he actually came out and said, I just miss your energy. I just need to be around your energy. And it scared the hell out of me, because like I said, I immediately knew what was happening. And I told him basically, like, we can be friends, but no, like, I don't want to be in a relationship with you at all. And obviously that didn't go well, because then he started trying to get my energy by any means necessary. And that's something else that, you know, takes place with a parasite. And I've done it too. Anybody else who's been in these situations, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just that wanting of that love by any means necessary. So what he did when he couldn't get the love from being with me and I rejected him, he started trying to get negative responses out of me. He started slandering me online. He started saying things about me, like sexually, like just being very, like, it escalated to him being ridiculously disrespectful. And this is someone who I never had any problems with. We didn't even really have any problems in our relationship. So it was the rejection and him just wanting that energy by any means. So sometimes when someone's parasitic, they won't, it's like if they can't get it in a healthy way, that love from you in a healthy way, they'll get it by any means. Okay. They'll get it by any means necessary, through negative, taunting or commenting on things about you online, starting gossip channels about you, just spreading rumors. And by any means, they want your attention, your focus, and your energy, because they just want love in any way that they can get it, no matter how false it is. And attention is love. When you pay attention to something, usually you're invested in it emotionally, so that can be confused as love. You see what I'm saying? That's why it's important when you're practicing self-love to pay very close attention to yourself, because paying attention means that you are focused and that you are connecting with whatever it is that you're paying attention to. And some people will settle for that. They will settle for attention because that's the closest thing they can get to your love energy, right? So that's what he was trying to do, get my attention, trying to get me to respond by being extremely negative. You know, trolls do it as well, online, parasitic trolls. They do it online, trying to get your energy by you responding negatively. So in that situation, I ignored him. I completely and totally ignored him. I didn't respond to it at all. I acted like I did not see it. Now, when you do this, I do feel guilty about doing this, by the way, because I know that when you ignore someone, it activates their core wound of shame, and they start to feel just very, very terrible about themselves. And I know that most commonly people say, oh, that doesn't matter because their feelings are not your problem. But because I'm so aware of people's core shame and about childhood trauma, yeah, I do feel bad for them, you know, but at the same time, just because I feel bad for them doesn't mean that I have to coddle them or accept their behavior or condone their behavior, you know. So it's something that I'm still working on, because when I do ignore negativity, it does, you know, kind of make me feel bad when I see them like escalating and getting more and more like aggressive with their way of trying to get your attention. Like at first I'm just like, oh my God, like what the hell? Like I get irritated, but then I start to feel kind of like, oh, that's their inner child acting up. And I do feel bad, but doesn't mean I'm going to go and contact them like, hey, you know, I see you verbally assaulting me. Let's go out and get some coffee and talk about, like, no. So ignoring would be the best bet. And eventually they see that they can get no energy from you, and they go off and try to find it elsewhere, and then they stop bothering you. And in that case, I like to pray for the person, because that's a way that I am sending God's loving energy to them without draining my own. You see what I'm saying? It's like they're trying to get this love energy from me, and they don't understand. You can create that within yourself. Like all you have to do is connect to your higher power through, you know, through God, through art, through family. Like they don't understand that though. All they think is, I just need that energy. I just need that energy. It's kind of like they're on autopilot and they're just desperate for it, you know? So what I like to do is, like I said, just not respond to them at all. And I like to just pray for them from a distance and ask God to send them that healing energy, so that they can stop feeling like they have that emptiness or that void. And then they won't be so parasitic towards me. You know what I'm saying? So if you are in that predicament, let's say that you're ready to break up with someone because you know the relationship is just toxic, but you know that that person is so wounded, you have every single right to leave them. You have every right to leave them. I just like to say, just be mindful of people's core wounds and their childhood trauma. Like, just try not to be so cruel. And I'm not saying that you need to enable them or coddle them, but this is just what I live by. You can do it whatever way you'd like. You can just cut ties and just ignore, but this is just what I like to live by. I just think of their core wound and their inner child, and I cut ties with them completely, because I still have to consider my own mental health and my own energy. So I cut ties with this parasitic person completely, but I'll make sure that I'm not doing it in a cruel way. I'll just explain to them, listen, we can't do this anymore. This relationship's toxic. I let it be known, like, I love you. I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm not doing this to make you feel abandoned, but I'm doing this for the greater good of both of us, because this is not healthy. What we're doing is not healthy. And so I explain to them why. And if you're dealing with someone who's parasitic and they're feeding off of your energy, of course, that's not going to be enough. They're not going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. And they're not just going to go away. They're probably still going to try. They're probably still going to try to keep trying to push your boundaries and trying to feed off of you. So I'm not saying that, explaining to them nicely is enough that'll make them go away, but explaining to them nicely will kind of ease your own guilt. Like, if you feel guilty about it, at least you know that you explain things to them nicely. You let it be known that you're not trying to hurt them. And it doesn't have to be face to face. It can be via text, via email, while you're already out the door, So yeah, that's what I like to do. Now, in cases of very abusive relationships, please just leave and don't say a word. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're being physically abused, like, you'll know what I'm saying. You'll know what I'm talking about. Use your discernment, because there's certain relationships where you need to just be silent and just go, but I'm talking more so about relationships that are just imbalanced and they're just toxic for both people, and you're just like, you know what, I'm the one that has to go and the other person is like the parasite. That's what I'm talking about. But yeah, I like to just explain to them nicely that this isn't gonna work, and then I just kind of cut ties and let it be known, I'm not doing this to be cruel. I'm not doing this because you don't matter. Like, you matter to me, but this is not good for both of us, and both of us are going to benefit from this in the end. And actually, I've been on the other side of this. I've had someone explain that to me before, and I was like, oh my God, that's bullshit. You just don't love me. Like, I'm just not good enough for you. Like, the parasitic energy started coming out, and they're just like, trust me, you're going to see, like, we're going to be better off apart. And he was absolutely right. We absolutely were better off apart. It was extremely painful to detach from him. I kept trying to get him back. I kept on trying to be with him. It escalated to me just slandering him. Like, I hate you. You were never a good boyfriend anyway. Like, just trying to get that energy from him any way that I could. And eventually we parted ways because he just refused to engage. He refused to, he refused to write me back. He refused to acknowledge me. And it was very, very painful, but he did beforehand explain, this isn't to hurt you. So whenever I was feeling hurt and ignored by the fact that he wasn't writing back, I would just think back to when he told me, this isn't to hurt you, this is for the best of both of us. And that somewhat soothed me, but not really, because I still needed to go and get that source of love from somewhere else. And then I got it from friends, my career, and things of that sort. But anyway, like I was saying, explain to the parasite, this is for the good of both of us, and then make your exit and pray for them from a distance. Engaging with them is not going to be beneficial to you. It'll just end up with you being drained, because if you were in a parasitic relationship, more than likely there's something within you where you felt you were lacking as well. So hold on one second. Okay, sorry, I had to stop the recording because there was a knock at the door. So if the audio sounds a little different, that's why. But like I was saying, when you have cut off a parasite, it is your time now to make sure you keep your distance, because when the other person is the parasite, they're going to try to get your energy by any means. And sometimes if you are someone who, you have a heart and you feel guilty, you may go back and try to soothe them. You may go back and try to talk to them like, wow, they look like they're in a lot of pain. Or you might even feel drawn back to them because you yourself have a core wound as well, where you feel like you're not whole. Because usually when you have two people in a parasitic relationship, it's that both people feel as though they need each other to feed off of that energy. So you'll take turns being the parasite. But then, you know, in some cases, you'll be the person who finally kind of wakes up and you're like, you know what, I have to go. But once you go, now is your opportunity to focus on getting that love energy from positive things like family, support system, your artwork, your career, you know, things like that, from positive things. So you really don't have the time or the energy or the resources to go back and try to help this parasitic person. They're reaching out to you. They want your energy so bad. And in your mind, you're like, you know what? Okay, I'm the one that cut ties. And you might feel a little better about yourself. You might feel, you know, a little like lighter since you cut ties with the person. So you might think that mentally or emotionally, you can handle being like a friend to them. Like, okay, I feel bad that they're so still stuck on me and trying to be with me. And I feel a little bit, you know, like I recovered a bit from the relationship. So maybe I can go back and just be their friend and try to soothe them a bit. And that's one of the worst things that you can do, because 9 times out of 10, you're thinking that you've recovered or that now you're in this better place. And then you get sucked right back into that parasitic energy. And then you end up becoming the parasite again. And then they end up leaving you. Trust me, I've had this happen. Like I said before, I've had an ex who was a parasite, right? Who they were playing the role of parasite, and they were trying to get my energy, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And they were trying to get it by any means, so they started attacking me. So I attacked them back, and then they were attacking me again. And eventually I'm like, no, this is not going to fly. I'm just going to ignore this, because I realized, okay, he's feeding off of the negative attention I'm giving him as well. So I finally just was like, nope, I'm going to ignore this person. But then I started feeling bad, because I remembered, he was abused as a child, and I feel bad for him, and he's still putting on a show, and he's still like slandering me. He must really be hurt by the things that I said. So me feeling like I was in a better headspace, right? I went and messaged him and was like, hey, I still don't think that we need to be in contact. Don't take this as me being your friend or anything like that, or trying to get back with you. But I just wanted to let you know that I do feel bad about the negative things I said towards you. You know, I'm praying for your success and your happiness. And, you know, I just wish you the best, right? And you would think that after that, the energy would be neutralized, right? That's what I'm thinking in my head. Like, you know, I'm just going to neutralize this whole situation, you know? And this person wrote back and was like, LOL, no, I don't accept your apology, and please stop stalking me. Mind you, this person had been harassing me I've never stalked this person in my life. They had been harassing me for months, and I felt bad for them because I saw their inner child acting a damn fool, you know? And I messaged apologizing for whatever took place and just hoping like we could squash it, hoping it would soothe some of his pain, because I'm feeling like I'm in a better place, you know? And he's like, LOL, no, I don't accept your apology. Stop stalking me. And then went and told everyone that I'm in his inbox stalking him to try to get back that's what I'm saying. You might think, oh, I'm trying to help this parasite. I'm trying to neutralize it. I feel bad for them. But whole time, some of them are just really, really wanting to get the upper hand over you. Like, it's not always the case of the parasite being loving and nurturing, because, okay, if you're an empath or you're a good person, right, and you are being a parasite, you still have a conscience. So when you are attacking someone because you know that you're just bitter about them not wanting you, you do feel kind of bad about yourself. You know, you do feel like, man, I need to stop doing this. Like, sometimes it's compulsive and you can't help it, but that's not everybody's story. Like, not everyone who is attacking and attention seeking and trying to be a parasite, not all of them log off or go home at night and think, man, that was really bad of me to do. I shouldn't be doing this. They feel like they're completely justified, and all they want is the upper hand over you. So if you try to go back and soothe them or coddle them thinking that you're in a better place, some of them are going to try to just get the upper hand over you and win, quote unquote, because they don't feel like they can create that energy elsewhere. So these are the parasites who genuinely are not going to go and focus on their artwork or their career or their family or whatever. They're going to try to get the upper hand by any means necessary. They're going to go from person to person, try to get the upper hand. If they don't get it from you, they're going to get it from other people. So don't automatically assume that this parasite is like this innocent, wounded individual and that you are this stronger individual because you left and you're able to go back and somehow help them or soothe them. It could end up at your detriment. You know, you could end up back at a lower energy because now they have deceived you and took your energy from you. And now you have to start all over building yourself back up. See what I'm saying? So be very careful of that. Do not go back. Do not coddle. Do not enable. From a distance, pray for them. Send them positive energy mentally. Don't go back and talk to them, speak to them. Nothing. Okay? You said what you need to say. You let it be known that this is not to hurt you. This is because this relationship is dysfunctional. pray for them from a distance, leave it alone, focus on filling yourself up. Because like I said, if you were in a parasitic relationship, there's probably core wounds within you that also need to be healed. So your focus and attention need to be on building yourself up and soothing yourself, and let that other person, deal with their own life. You've done everything you could as a good person. You've done everything that you could, and actually you're helping this other person by staying away. Because sometimes that's when a person gets their shit together. Like I said, the one person who was like, no, we can't do this no more, and I was the parasite, that's how I ended up getting my shit together. Like, I had to find that love energy through connecting with a higher power. That's how I got into spirituality. That's how I got into YouTube. That's how I got into, well, I was already into YouTube, but that's how I got deeper into YouTube, or focusing more on my channel. That's how I got into, building a support group or a support system and things of that sort. It's like, that's how I got into that, because this person refused to enable my parasitic ways. And I had to go and create that love energy within myself. And that's how I got my life together. So trust me, you could actually be helping someone by cutting ties, as long as it's not in a cruel way. Use your discernment. Sometimes you have to be cruel. But if you don't have to be, then don't. Then don't. And pretty much that is how to remove yourself from that cycle of parasitic relationships. So I think that's it. I'm sorry if the audio was kind of up and down. I kept on having to stop. But yeah, I hope that it flowed well. I hope it made sense. And I will see you guys in my next video.